We go. Happy Tuesday, everybody. Welcome to What Keeps You Up at Night, Entrepreneurship During Challenging Times, episode 11. Reza, we made it to 11, buddy. So we're going. We're going to make it to 100. We're going to make it to 200. We'll make it to 1,000. Well, maybe no promises, but we'll make it to 12. We definitely will do. So my name is Colin Weston. I am the community leader for Startup Vancouver, which is one of over 40 chapters of Startup Canada across this great country of ours, which is the voice for the over 3.5 million entrepreneurs that we have in Canada. So I'm going to share my screen here. Apparently I've been told by Reza that I've got to pick up the pace here and learn how to do this faster. So let's see if I'm getting any better at this. I'll let you be the judge of that. And hopefully everybody can see that. And I need to swap my displays here.
How are you
guys Reza, you tell me, which image do you see, Reza? Do you see the image of my smiling upside down woman?
And hanging in there.
There we go.
Yes.
See, I've switched this up too here. Normally we have our friendly cat that's asking how we're doing and we're hanging in here. So we're switching it up today, keeping the content fresh. This is our way of saying, how's everybody hanging in there? How is everybody doing as we slowly start to come out of our bubbles, our COVID bubbles here, and start to see more people while still being safe. I hope everybody is staying engaged, is staying active, both physically and mentally, and is managing to do well. That's what we want you to do here. And we're hoping that is the case. And what we do here with What Keeps You Up at Night, for 30 minutes, twice a week, we do want to keep this light and we do want to keep it informative and entertaining and engaging for you. So that's what we're here to do today. So with Startup Vancouver, we are very active on social. So if you want to learn about all the things that we're doing, both locally, regionally, and nationally, best place to find us is on social media between Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. And also now on YouTube. Every single episode we do, that we record, we do post that up there afterwards. So if you've missed any of these or you have to run away quick, you can always go back there. And while you're there, why don't you subscribe? And so we can get that up. We got 22 subscribers. Let's get that to 1 million. Okay, let's get that to 23. We'll start with there. Baby steps as entrepreneurs here as we scale up. Had a great event last week with Cannes Startup Stories, celebrating women entrepreneurs, and we're going to be doing more of these once a month. Stay tuned for the next one that we're going to have in July. And this is supposed to be an interactive and engaging half hour. So all of our attendees, both on Facebook Live and also on Zoom, please ask questions. Put that in the Q&A to ourselves, the panelists and the attendees. And we'll even open up the mic for you, or we'll ask your question for to our guests once we've finished with our interview and conversation with them. And today, the conversations we are having are with Kayla Isabelle, who is the Executive Director with Startup Canada, and also our good friend, Paul Brassard, Managing Partner at Volition Advisors. Rez is going to be talking to Paul, then I'm going to be talking to Kayla, and that's the way we're going to roll here today. As always, our charitable partner is jack.org, which is an advocacy group that supports mental health awareness for youth all across the country, provinces and territories. They're doing fantastic, impactful work. And all those that have donated through Eventbrite, that is optional. And thank you for the people that have. And we do have one donation today. So as I always do, whether you like it or not, I'll be singing a little shout out to that particular individual at the end of the show. So at Volition, I'll have Reza do the introduction as he talks to Paul and all the good things that they're doing. We've had the pleasure of partnering, gosh, Paul, I guess almost over 3 years now with Vancouver Pitch Nights. They've taken everything virtual, so they're going to be talking about what they've been doing, how they've been surviving and thriving in COVID times and beyond. And little shout out also, their next pitch night is Women's Pitch Event, and we'll include the link in the URL to sign up both to pitch if that's not full already, and also to attend these amazing pitch events, and that's on June 30th. That's happening. And then with Startup Canada, amazing resources they have to support and connect entrepreneurs. You can see quite a few of them there. The Canny Awards that Kayla will be talking about in a few minutes. The next one is coming up on this Thursday of the regional awards. Hey, you see Paul's smiling face on there again. Paul is everywhere in what she's doing with the Pitch Bootcamp. I think they were doing that this morning, actually. And between the podcast with Thrive and the Startup Canada podcast, and also the Canadian Export Challenge. Lots we're going to talk about here with them. So I am now going to stop talking. I'm going to stop sharing, and I'm going to hand it over to my good friend and our co-host for Tuesday, Reza V. Reza, take it away.
What's up, everyone? Another Tuesday with Colin and I. We're joining you guys at the comfort of your home for lunch breaks. You guys can take a half an hour lunch break with us. And we have two lovely guests that you have to connect with them if you haven't already. If you are an entrepreneur, if you're a founder in startups and you're in Canada, you have to know Paul and Kayla. Both of them are well integrated in the community. They know all the right people that you might want to have in the network. I'm going to start off by interviewing Paul. Thank you for being here, Paul.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
Paul is, I don't know where to start. He's got a lot of stuff going on his plate. He's a managing partner and lead advisor at Volition. He's an instructor at Langara. He's an instructor at Tamwood. He's also CEO of, I don't know how you do all this at the same time. You're also CEO of Brick Click. He is, as his bio says, he's a master pitch and presentation coach. You wouldn't believe how good he is until you meet him in person. I went to Volition pitch night, and the points and tidbits you gave were so actionable and so useful that I got drawn into coming to more Volition pitch nights and listen to all the pitch and all the stuff you guys are doing. How are you handling everything that's been happening with COVID? How are you juggling all those businesses? Have you moved towards one or the other?
Yeah, actually, interesting enough, I don't necessarily talk about it a lot. So pre-COVID, actually, Bricklick was going into due diligence for exit. That got put on hold due to COVID. So we're it's in a holding pattern at the moment. So there's not a lot of things going on in that part of it. So a lot of my day-to-day is certainly with Volition and Langara and Tamwood. And then I teach for a couple of other institutions as well, like once or twice a month here and there. So I think, if I was to sum it up, a lot of what I'm doing on a day-to-day basis is teaching one way or another. So if it's working directly with entrepreneurs, we just had an immense opportunity, which was incredible. Not only the Startup Canada Pitch Bootcamp that we just did, the first one was this morning, and then we've got another one next month, and then another one the month after. But we also just ran pitch feedback sessions with entrants into the New Ventures BC competition, where we had done a pitch and presentation masterclass with them for a few weeks ago, and then follow-up feedback sessions. So love doing that, love working with entrepreneurs on their pitch and presentation, preparing them to try to pitch into round 3. And, so a lot of my job is that. And then just trying to balance home life. I have, in addition to everything you said, I also have 3 boys, 10, 8, and 6 at home. So trying to balance, personal health, mental health, health of the family, trying to find ways of even assisting my wife however I can, even like trying to find ways of giving her breaks, and the strangeness that is her being like the teacher now, right? And even though they're like learning online, she's still having to manage a lot of like the homework and assignments and the teaching, and it's a lot of, and I'm getting pulled in because she's like not great at math, and she's trying to help our oldest son with math, and she's usually like, and I was really good at math in school, so, but then it's like amazing how much you've forgotten. And then you get pulled in and you're like, she's like, you're good at math, you can do this, and I'm like, I don't remember how to do any of this, and so I have to relearn it, right? So yeah, it's been a journey. It's been interesting.
So you've got you love teaching, and anybody who has met you, it's so you can see it in your eyes. You love and you have passion for teaching, and you've got all these stuff happening, which from the outside it looks like a lot to handle. But I also understand how it's like not putting all your eggs in the same basket. And I'm not talking about in terms of financial. I'm talking about emotionally. You've got all these stuff that if one doing well, it can support the other one, and vice versa. But a lot of people that I've talked to during the past 2 months, they don't have that. They have one startup. They are grinding towards one goal, and either they're just starting out and all the customers are gone because of COVID, because the landscape of business has changed, or they were about to raise money and they lost that, and they're struggling to get attention for investor, or similar to your experience, having an exit that was not happening. What's your advice to those people that they don't have something else to keep them busy?
Yeah, I think, that's a complicated answer. And it's actually in Tamwood, in one of the colleges I teach at, they actually tease me and say I should have a show called The It Depends Show with Paul Brassard. Because my answer is often, it depends, right? So, there's a great story with a pitch alumni of ours that we just did an Instagram live interview with last week, I think it was. Her name's Ya from a company called FemBnB. I think based in Toronto, if I remember right. And, great example of like, okay, she's like, well, look, realistically, I'm in the tourism and travel space. And so I just basically had to stop because nobody's booking Airbnbs or FemBnBs right now. And she at her point, she was at the point of launch. Like she was just about to launch. And she said, so it just took me a moment to like kind of sit back, reflect. What are we doing here? What's the next steps? And what are the opportunities that we can take on now? So she said, actually, it turned out to be a blessing in disguise for her, because she was actually able to start implementing more planning and pre-launch content and start reaching out to more people, making more connections, building up network, looking for opportunities to find connections and collaborations, which we at Volition, that's huge for us. We really believe in connections and collaborations and conversations. So, that was a large part of it for her. Now that works for her, that doesn't necessarily work for everybody else, right? So, yeah, I mean, it depends. It is tough. There's no easy one size fits all answer. I think, on one end of the spectrum, actually, I'd probably look at it that way. It's kind of a spectrum. You've got some people and some businesses that are able to pivot and evolve and change. We've seen a lot of pivots in terms of like, how quick even breweries were able to change around and say, well, we're going to make hand lotion, or one that not a lot of people talk about that, but I'm a huge hockey fan. And then like, hockey equipment manufacturers turned around and started making PPE, right? And like, why not, right? They make helmets already, so why can't we make face masks? And, there's all these different companies, and I think we as entrepreneurs have it built into us to find ways to navigate and build and do stuff. And we have, what I see over and over again is, and I know I can speak for myself, is when our backs are against the wall, it's amazing how we can respond and how we can find opportunity and things. So I think realistically, we all naturally, at the beginning of all this, at least, we all had to kind of take a moment and step back and go, okay, this is our reality now, right? We have to kind of accept it, that this is happening. None of us have ever lived through something like this before, not to this extent. I know there was SARS for a bit, but like it certainly never got to this extent. And we've been through economic downturns, which is bound to happen, but we've been through that before. But if we look at the silver lining, there's things like the ability for us to be virtual now. Like I remember our last major economic downturn, Zoom wasn't really a thing, right? We didn't really have all these amazing tools like Zoom and Slack and all this stuff to be able to be digital and do business digitally, and the accessibility to applications, right? So restaurants can go from not having any technology to being tech enabled, right? And finding ways to change. So I think take a step back, figure out what opportunities suit you, see if there's things that you've been holding off on. Maybe it's a great time to enact something you've been holding out on. Like Volition is a perfect example. Melanie and I had been talking about doing e-courses for 2 years. It was part of our strategic plan. It was one of those things that just, well, no, we've got other things to concentrate on. And then the world went digital, and we were like, and the cry out was for more education, more online learning, more, and it's not scalable for her and I to keep doing all the teaching. So how can we provide more access and more information? So we said, you know what a great time to start building our e-courses, right? And be able to put those, and then you've got great platforms like Thinkific that make it even easier. So, I think it.
Paul, sorry to cut you off, but our show is a little short, so we want to go on a snappy movement. And I want to add a comment. You mentioned how people are taking a step back and reflecting. I met a lot of people who are doing that. Amazing outcomes out of that. They realize what actually they want out of their life and what purpose they serve. Also, for the ones who are focused in their business, I've seen a lot of success with people who are focused in bringing value. They know what value they have. They don't let a box or their technology or business model limit them. They think outside the box and really bring that value. And an example for tourism is all the virtual tourism that they've been pushing out there to, fill the gap. I'm going to pass it to my co-host, Colin. Take over.
Thanks so much, Reza. Yeah, Paul, if we have some questions at the end, I'm going to flip it around. All the attendees, once again, if you have any questions for Paul and Kayla, just put it in there and we will hit those up at the end. So yes, I am going to switch it up now. And it is my pleasure to have a chat with Kayla Isabelle, who is the Executive Director of Startup Canada, as I mentioned. I had the pleasure of knowing Kayla for, I guess since you took the job, you'll have to tell us, around a year ago, maybe a little less than that, a little more. But Kayla, I want to start off, perhaps you can give the quick elevator pitch so people that don't know what Startup Canada is and what you do, explain that. And then you always have had that scrappy startup mentality also. So tell us everything that was being planned in January and February to roll out the next year and build on all the good stuff the last couple of years. And then guess what? Everything had to change for you, just like all the other entrepreneurs. So quickly, Kayla, tell us what you do and why you do it at Startup Canada, and then answer what I just asked you there.
Fantastic. Awesome. Thanks, Colin. And thanks for having me on the show today. This is really a fantastic platform, and love what you're doing with Startup Vancouver and all the programs. But really, Startup Canada is Canada's entrepreneurship organization. We represent 3.5 million entrepreneurs coast to coast to coast by providing resources, networking opportunities, community, and really targeted programming around going global. So thinking with that global mindset from day one as you start up and scale up your business, supporting women entrepreneurs and marginalized communities in connecting them with other ecosystem players, but really making Canada's ecosystem more diverse, and looking at social impact, how we can encourage both nonprofit and for-profit enterprises to align to the sustainable development goals and start incredible businesses that do good outside of just doing well. So really, Startup Canada's programming has had to shift very dramatically. So a bit of context about my role, as Colin said, I started with the team in September, but I took over as executive director on March 1st. So I had about a week and a half, 2-week honeymoon period, if you can even call it that, because everyone knows transition is fairly challenging, and taking over from our incredible co-founders who have really built this incredible organization. And we launched with our Women Entrepreneur Program. We had, ministers in attendance. It was literally shaking Justin Trudeau's hand on March 11th, and then March 12th, Sophie had COVID, and we had to call the Prime Minister's office and say, what do we do? Because at that point, contingency planning for COVID wasn't in place. So since then, we were lucky enough to have our wonderful in-person kickoff of the women's program, but we've shifted completely digital. So we have incredible startup chats and podcasts that our viewership and attendance is skyrocketing because people are looking for that type of digital programs, but doing weekly women's webinars, from everything from mental health from women entrepreneurs to looking at supply chains, to funding opportunities. We're taking our Canadian Export Challenge completely digital, so Canada's first digital export pitch competition and virtual accelerator. Our Cannies, we're doing regional celebrations of resilience and incredible innovation in the entrepreneurship space. So lots of programming. It's definitely been a heavy lift turning it all digital, but we're in a good space.
Wow. And one thing people don't understand, they think Startup Canada, you're based in Ottawa, so you think you're funded by like tens of millions of dollars of federal money, which you don't have any. You guys are scrappy with the corporate partners that you have to add value for them. And most people think you're, I say, kind of like the Wizard of Oz before you pull back the curtain, that you're like a staff of 100 people. You have like a half a dozen, probably less than 10 unbelievable people, including yourself, that actually make all this magic happen. But that magic also could take a bit of a toll. So how are you and the team managing to connect, and also the best that you can as far as physical and also mental kind of positive kind of health outcomes, that you can actually stay well? What are you doing as an organization to maintain that?
It's been a challenge, I have to say. So early days, we were set up to work digitally. Everything is on the cloud. We definitely had the infrastructure to transition really easily digitally. But we had a fairly new team as well. So we were getting to know many of our colleagues in a digital interface and not being able to, go out for beers at the bar downstairs. And so finding ways, we would do Friday kind of wind downs, connecting, not talking about all the incredible programming that we're doing, and just getting to know each other a little bit more. And it's interesting seeing in how people are staying healthy and staying connected with their friends that, one of our staff members loves spin. So she actually has a spin bike in her back sort of background every day. And we can tell that that's, a key part of her life that she's maintained during COVID. So we've gotten to understand people's habits and interests through how they're coping with COVID. But from a leadership perspective, I've really just had the mindset of complete flexibility of letting them manage their energy and not necessarily just their time. That we need to acknowledge that, it's weighing heavily that we're managing a global pandemic. And as Colin mentioned, we have a team of 7. We have a very lean team doing, extremely high impact, high intensity programming that we need to make sure that our staff are not burning out, that they are supported by me, and by each other. How can we build in flexibility points and take time to celebrate and give kudos for all this incredible badass work that they're doing, because that that is free. It takes a moment to recognize your staff and really give them that moment of thanks, and we need to do that more than ever, because it's sometimes implied that, oh yeah, well obviously they did a great job and I don't necessarily need to sort of share that with the full team. Baking that in on a regular basis and recognizing our staff has been really important too.
Nice. And I know both through our digital efforts and also with our 40+ communities, boots on the ground, connecting directly with entrepreneurs. I think almost over 350,000 entrepreneurs that we are directly connected to. So I'm going to bring that all the way down to one. I'm going to put you on the spot here. Can you tell us one positive story that with Startup Canada that you've directly been involved with, of a startup, of an early stage company, of an entrepreneur that has recalibrated what they're offering through these COVID times? Perhaps there's a story you can share with us with an entrepreneur.
Oh my gosh, that is wild. Honestly, my mind is drawing a blank on sort of COVID-19 specific.
It doesn't have to be. Well, even just a really good feel-good story. Because it's all about storytelling here. People would think this is kind of this abstract thing of all these entrepreneurs that we support. Perhaps you can. I am putting you on the spot here. Sorry about that, but I think you're up for it. Is there one story you can share with us quickly here?
Yeah. Well, I think it's really celebrating the connectivity that we're seeing like around the ecosystem. So it's not so much just one specific story, but like the appetite and the interest and the passion that we've seen entrepreneur supporting entrepreneur. With our Canny Awards, we have so many, I'd say every single one we have, so our Canada Awards for Innovation and Entrepreneurship, we had the applications at the beginning of this year, pre-COVID, but I'd say almost every single one of them has pivoted to shift their business from everything from like rechargeable batteries to gelato to like everything. They've reimagined their businesses, but with this community-centric, high impact during challenging times sort of mentality of, I might be, a gelato maker like Fiasco Gelato that we recognized last week in our Canny Awards. They're making gelato, but the bigger purpose of bringing people together is that sense of community that, he's been able to pivot and offer more community building digitally and shifting their business overall. But just seeing this immense cross Canada, across every province, this interest and this energy in supporting each other and this camaraderie that I think was implicit in the Canadian ecosystem before, but it's been bumped up 120%. So I'd say I can't really think of one specific of them, but like they're all so incredible. And it's the sum is bigger than, or the total is bigger than the sum of its parts. Like I'm really seeing this elevation across everybody.
Gotcha. Well, I did put you on the spot there. That actually, I love that answer. That was a great response. So thanks for
check out the Cannies for more specific examples.
And so for our audience knows what the Cannies are. Those were the Startup Canada Awards for almost a decade, and then we partnered with the Canny Awards. The new awards were created. It's kind of an amalgamation of two awards now. So it's actually double the awesomeness now. And I believe that you can actually say very quickly on Thursday, there's one of the regional ones. I think it's the Atlantic, if I'm not.
We've got Atlantic on Thursday and then Quebec the following Thursday. So every Thursday night.
And the national awards, which normally takes place in Ottawa during our Startup Day on the Hill, which most likely is not going to happen this year.
Next year.
So when are the national awards going to happen, the Canny Awards this year?
October 20th. So October 20th, we're going to be recognizing the regional award winners and additional prizes, really looking at COVID-19 iterations of businesses, looking at incredible public-private partnerships, really trying to celebrate what's happened over the last couple of months and celebrating incredible innovation and entrepreneurship. So October 20th, save the date.
Awesome. Good stuff. I know between the Canadian Export Awards, Challenge Awards, the Canadian Export Challenge and other things, there's a lot to put out there. And we only have another 2 minutes left here, but we will include all those links afterwards too. So everybody can access that, because I believe you can still sign up for the Canadian Export Challenge as far as
are up until September. So if you're looking to pitch to win 25K, startups and scale-ups are both invited. And Paul is actually doing pitch prep sessions with us every month. So you can tune into those.
Saw, Paul, where do you find the time? Paul, you make us all look like a bunch of slackers with all that energy you have there. Okay, well, we're going to wrap up here. We're almost at the top of the hour, but before we do, and before I hand it over to Reza to finish up here, I did want to mention again with Paul, so June 30th is the Virtual Women's Pitch Night. We'll be promoting that also on our social media channels, because that's a great event. Paul, very quickly chirp in, is there still some openings for women entrepreneurs to pitch, or are those filled now?
Yeah, no, this is unlike our normal events when we were in person. It used to be first come, first serve. This is applications.
Right.
So applications, I believe, are open until like the Thursday or Friday before the event. So there's still lots of time to get your applications in. Last I looked, I think we were around 38 or 39 applications. So certainly get it in, and the committee will make the choices from there.
Amazing. Okay.
And before we wrap it up, I'd like to ask Kayla a question, if that's okay.
You know what? We are able to go over a couple of minutes here. It isn't like
Kayla, it's going to be a quick one. You are as you said, you are on top of, you're involved in entrepreneurship and Startup Canada coast to coast. What is Canadian entrepreneurship or startup landscape? How does it differ from other places, let's say US? What is it that we are strong in, and what are the stuff that we have to improve on?
I think it's community with competitiveness. That obviously the Canadian landscape is competitive, but the sense, and I actually grew up in, so my connection to the US is very strong. But the raison d'etre de Canadians is so special. And I think when we look at the entrepreneurship ecosystem, the diversity of perspective that we have, the energy and the passion that we bring to the table outside of just building, for-profit traditional enterprises, is so strong. And it's more emotive than anything else, I think, in my response to it. But in looking forward and how we can improve, I think it's tooting our own horns that as a nation, we need to encourage entrepreneurs to stay in Canada, to build their businesses, go global, but keeping, that talent here and really encouraging entrepreneurship as a viable career option from, the get-go, that we should be telling our kids entrepreneurship is there for you. There's so much potential. And as we look to, traditional jobs and post-COVID, in terms of what our economy looks like, entrepreneurship out of necessity is going to be a player. So Startup Canada is going to be really leading that charge, making sure every entrepreneur is equipped at any age to start and scale their incredible business. So it's going to be an awesome next chapter.
Awesome. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Easy to answer there. A little mic drop moment there. Thank you, Kayla, for that.
There you go.
So as far as dropping the mic, hopefully I don't break the mic when I do this, as I do. But as we finish up, I'm going to do a little musical shout out. I'm going to serenade someone and to thank them for making a donation today. And it goes something like this. Nice donation by you. Jack.org says thank you. You are awesome, Paul Brassard. Nice donation by you. There we go. See that I was a little nervous there because I know Paul actually in a previous life has a lot of experience singing. So actually to sing to someone that actually is a good singer, I was a little freaked out. So I'll just leave it at that. So Reza, over to you to close the show for today.
Another Tuesday, another lunch break with Colin and I on what keeps you up at night, entrepreneurship with Startup Vancouver. We had two lovely guests. Definitely go reach out to them on LinkedIn. All the links are both on Zoom and Facebook. You want to have them as your connection. Definitely something to do. Thursday, another show, 12:30. And Tuesday, we'll be back again, same time.
Absolutely. Thanks so much. Have a great day.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye for now.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.